The Classic Boat Museum in Newport on the Isle of Wight houses a unique collection of sailing and powerboats of both local and national interest and importance. The chairman of the museum, Felix Hetherington, told us more about its history.
It all began about 12 years ago when a group of enthusiasts got together to put together the collection you see today. It's been built up over the years and we're now in a position where this is well and truly established on the island and is very popular with visitors. It's run by volunteers completely and has been right from the beginning. I think we've got to a point now where we need to reassess how we go forward for the next 10 years. Our primary focus is boats from the island, but when we get an interesting vessel offered to us, it's very difficult to resist the temptation. Largely they've been donated. One or two things we've acquired over the years, mainly artefacts, but by and large we get donations. In fact, we have too many really, and it's a difficulty to know where to store them all.
The collection represents much of the history of boat building, sailing, yachting, cruising and racing over the last century, both within the Solent and further afield. All the boats on display are in seaworthy condition and are taken afloat as often as possible. Many have a fascinating history. There are several Uffa Fox designs, including Cowslip, the legendary Flying 15, which was raced and owned by the Duke of Edinburgh. Uffa designed the Flying 15 in 1947 and it's still a very popular keelboat today, raced by people of all ages. Another famous boat is Sopranino.
Patrick Ellum was the first owner of Sopranino, and he was a most ambitious man, obviously not very wealthy, and he could only afford to build a small boat, and in 1950 when she was built the materials were in short supply and expensive. So he built the smallest boat that was really possible to be sailed offshore by two people. She's really built around two bunks and a small galley, a small chart table and a loo, and basically that's it. And she wasn't allowed to compete in the RORC races, so ultimately they founded the Junior Offshore Group, which is junior to the Royal Ocean Racing Club. He got so confident in the boat's performance that he eventually decided to sail across the Atlantic, and there's a book called Sopranino written about her transatlantic voyage in 1953 down to Casablanca and then across to Barbados. There's an interesting story there where they were almost the talk of the town in Barbados, and a lot of people came to see them, including this chap who came on board and said, "I don't think you know me, my name's Ernest Hemingway, I'm a writer." And so, yes, well, we have heard of you, Mr. Hemingway. And eventually they got up to the eastern seaboard of the States in Sopranino, and there she stayed for the rest of her life until she was brought back by us.
The driving force behind many of the museum's restorations is former chairman Maurice Wilmot. He led the team which restored this beautiful 1920s river launch that was found holed and partly flooded in a Thames backwater. Flying Spray has been to rallies in Germany and Switzerland, and she recently won the Concours d'Elegance at a prestigious French regatta at Eau-le-Bain. The fine mahogany transom shows mirror flame planking, and her windows are etched with river scenes. There are some very unusual as well as historic craft in the collection. One is an airborne lifeboat designed in World War II by Uffa Fox. These boats were dropped from aircraft by parachute to RAF airmen who ditched in the Channel and North Sea. They saved some 600 lives. Rescued crews managed to sail, motor and sometimes row home. One crew took 4 days to reach Plymouth from the Bay of Biscay. A 2-year renovation programme has restored this early example to its original specification, after being dug out of a garden in Colchester. Another highly unusual boat is Kestrel, one of 2 Bembridge Redwings in the museum.
Kestrel was owned by Lord Brabazon, a famous aviator of the 1930s, who, as a gyro man, decided in 1930 he could convert the rig within the rules to a gyro rig using a 2-bladed propeller the Bembridge Red Wing rules had a sail area of 200 square feet. So by providing a two-bladed propeller, it's prescribed a circle of 200 square feet. That is what he did. The boat does work extremely well. It needs a good breeze. Force 4 is good. Off the wind, it's extremely fast. It goes very close to the wind, like about 7 or 8 degrees to the wind, but slowly. And downwind, it is quite fast.
Close by the museum is the restoration shed. Here work takes place all year round to renovate boats that are part of a nation's maritime heritage and restore them to their original condition. Vigia is one of the museum's latest additions, whose restoration is now underway. This historic and beautiful yacht is a uni-rigged catboat, and she was recently donated by the family in whose care she has been for over 70 years. Nearly 24 foot in length, she was built in Cowes in 1872, and she's thought to be the oldest English registered pleasure yacht still sailing. Of equal interest is the amount of history that has come with her, including photos, paintings, articles and ownership details that add so much value to her part in the importance of yachting in the Solent. Another craft currently being restored is Rosabelle. It was from this launch that the famous photographer Frank Beacon took some of his most renowned sailing pictures throughout the early part of the 20th century. The redevelopment of East Cowes as part of the South East England Development Agency's regeneration of the area means the future of the museum is set to change.
We've decided that we don't have a permanent base here. We think the real home for a museum of yachting is in Cowes. We have an opportunity to take part in the redevelopment on the East Cowes side, and we've already taken space in the Columbine building as a first step towards that.
The gallery here at East Cowes opened up just before Cowes Week this year, so that means we've been open about 10 weeks. And we started off with a lot of our own archival stuff here. We've got a major room with permanent exhibitions about Cowes, which we're adding to. And we have got the main gallery, which will have our own archival material around the walls. And in the centre, we hope to have rotating exhibitions.
The winter exhibition currently on display includes some outstanding model boats made by local craftsmen. The variety of models ranges from some small enough to fit into a car's rear light bulb to the somewhat larger HMS Nelson battleship. The Nelson-class battleship model was made by E.V. Fry from Cowes, who also built the models of the Bournemouth Queen and the Viking longship. Robin Board is another local model maker whose boats are on display at the museum, and he built the pulling lifeboat of 1880 and the Itchen Ferry punt, amongst others.
We think that eventually, if the new Maritime Heritage Centre comes into being, we'll bring our boats up here and we'll have mast height and we can show everything on one side, and we'll be right on the waterfront, which would be a very nice thing for East Cowes, for West Cowes, for everybody in the harbour area.
Behind the scenes at the museum is a substantial archive, which is managed by volunteers.
All of these are magazines that have been donated by different people to the museum.
There are books and magazines dating back over a century, and if there is anything you might want to know about the history of yachting, it is more than likely that the museum archive can provide the answer.
We're very pleased that the local people have been very good in supporting us. We're new boys on the block. We want to make sure that East Cowes people realise we're here as part of the regeneration scheme. We very much want to include local people, and that seems to be happening. Local people are bringing in material from their own homes, from the garages and the attics and all the usual place where archival material lingers around in the cobwebs, and that's lovely to have local people doing that for us.